Hello and welcome to another What Sold on eBay video. I'm your host Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. Definitely go down there and click the subscribe button if you're new to the channel and you want to learn different items to sell on eBay that are worth good money. We're going to go over some items today in this video. So like I said, if you're new, definitely go down there, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you get notified anytime a helpful video comes out. Let's get right into it. I know it's been a little bit of a while since I've done one of these videos, and I'm happy to get back into the swing of things, so you definitely want to go down there and subscribe if you're new to the channel. So let's go start off with this first item here. This is a Maui Jim white cap sunglasses. We did take a best offer for $75 on these glasses. Now, one of the things about glasses, or sunglasses I should say, you need to be aware that there's a lot of fakes out there. So usually you can just usually tell by the quality. As you can see here, everything looks pretty much legit. And I didn't know that Maui Jim actually had sunglasses. They're known for their t-shirts and their Hawaiian typed items like that. But some of their glasses actually good, or some of their sunglasses actually go for a pretty good amount of money. And of course, with sunglasses, like I said, one of the major things is just to make sure that they're not fake. There's a lot of reproduction, or I should say bootleg sunglasses out there, and usually you can tell by the quality. I think from my experience, Oakleys are probably the most counterfeited item that I've come across in my journey. And I know I've seen Ray-Bans and things like that, but for some reason, Oakleys were just made in crazy amounts of bootleg, counterfeit, whatever you want to say. And usually it's the quality. You know, the plastics will be a little bit heavier on the legitimate stuff. The things that are printed on the side here usually very well done. You know, some of them are printed on, some of them are stamped in there. Just one of those things, but just to look out for Maui Jim sunglasses. You might not have realized that this brand makes sunglasses, and they actually go for a pretty good amount of money. So this is definitely a Bolo brand to look out for. Next up, we have this vintage Aurora Olympic size Skittle Bowl. This is complete, as you can see here, from 1971. Aurora might be a name that, if you're in the collector's world, that you're very familiar with, and we'll get into that in just a second. But as you can see here, all the different pieces, and to be honest, like, this is a really good find, especially finding these boxes in such amazing shape. That's going to be one of the hardest things to do. As you can see here, there's a little bit of dentage in that bottom corner, but I mean, just the graphics alone, a lot of this stuff usually just is torn apart. You know, these things sit in garages, and as you can see, it's got some water damage or some age. It looks like, you know, this instruction sheet at some point got a little bit of water on it, and that's pretty common to things that are put into garages. And as you can see here, this thing is just amazing condition. This sold for $59.99, and all the little pieces are in there, and just an amazing shape, to be honest. Like, finding these things in boxes alone is incredible. As you can see here, this box has been very well kept. And I will say, some of these older games, especially Aurora stuff, and we'll get into that in just a second. We're going to take a little bit of a deep dive if you've never heard of Aurora. It's a vintage company. And you know, sometimes just really good boxes will add 3 or 4 times the value to a certain item, just for having a really good condition box. So that goes for a lot of collectibles. So, you know, usually you can add a little bit of a premium onto these collectibles, especially if the box is in really good condition. And other than the fact that, you know, it does have some kind of image loss, which is understandable, but that dent in the corner is a little bit of a bummer, especially considering that this thing is in such good condition for the age. And that little ding in the corner definitely is not great, but, you know, overall this thing is in pretty good condition. So a little bit of a dive. If you've never heard of Aurora's been around for a while. I don't know, I don't think they still make stuff, but they're most known for their plastic model kits. As we can see here, some of the monster ones go for thousands of dollars, especially if you can find them in the boxes, some of them brand new. We can see some of the original art up there. It went for a pretty crazy amount of money. But as you can see here, Aurora, if you ever see that name, Aurora, and it's any kind of model kit, definitely take another look. Like I said, the sci-fi stuff and the monsters, the universal monsters, go for the most money. But Aurora's been doing stuff for a long time. Um, and as you can see here, finding that stuff, even there's airplanes and cars and things like that, those things still go for a pretty good amount of money. But so anyways, just if you see Aurora, that name, and it's a model kit, definitely take another look, especially if it's universal monsters. If you can find some of those in really good condition. I mean, look at this. I mean, look at this one. This was a whole collection, as you can see here, and just keep an eye out for those. Next up, we have this antique New Point 14 karat gold ink pen. Now, I don't think this is actually solid gold 14 karat. A lot of these pens are going to be gold filled, and that cuts down on cost. Don't get me wrong, there are solid 14 karat gold pins out there, so just be aware of that. But most of the time, if it says 14 karat, it's usually going to be, it's going to usually say like GF or like, what is it, GEF or like gold or GEP, gold electroplate, which is basically a fancy term for gold plated. They use like magnets and stuff like that to apply the. It's like electro. It's like usually I don't want to get into the whole thing, but it's a fancy way to plate metals using electricity and magnets. So anyways, like I said, definitely check out these pins. Sometimes actually these gold the nibs, which are basically the little pointy metal part on the end that the ink comes out of. Well, actually, ink doesn't come out of that. Ink flows into this little thing, and then you basically write with it. But the nibs, the little tips, sometimes those are actually solid gold. So definitely look out for that. They don't weigh much, but sometimes that'll add an extreme amount of value to this. Actually, you could see. So, like my point exactly here. The nib on this is 14 karat gold. I can't see the marking, and I didn't list this, so I can't tell you whether or not it's solid gold. But usually, the nibs, if they're gold, they're going to be solid. They don't usually do gold-filled nibs because they don't really weigh that much. Usually, the gold filling is going to be, or the gold plating and the gold filling will be on these pins, and usually they'll be marked on the side or on the ends here, right here on the end. So, I mean, just look for fancy pins. If you go to garage sales, you'll see sometimes they have junk drawer kind of bins, just laying out there with a bunch of keys and, knickknacks that, the old, good old kitchen catch-all drawer. Sometimes people just pull that drawer out and just dump it on a table or just set the whole drawer on a table. And these pins are notoriously found in those kind of rummage kind of things. So if you go to a garage sale and you see a bunch of pins and just junk in like a thing, just dig through it. You never know what you're going to find. But anyways, these older nib pens, definitely look out for those. And like I said, as you can see, it says New Point 14 karat. I can't see the other piece if this is gold filled or not. But like I said, you don't really find gold filled tips. They're usually solid gold. And they don't weigh much, but like I said, you couldn't really sell it for the actual gold. You could sell the nibs, to be honest, but it's just better just to sell the whole thing together, even if it doesn't work. As you can see here, this is an old style pin, fountain pen, and see here, it did come with a box, but definitely look out for this kind of stuff. Speaking of pins, this is actually a good thing that came up. As Cross is another great vintage company. They do a lot of ballpoint pins, though. I've seen some Cross fountain pins. As you can see here, it's like a ballpoint, and you can definitely tell the difference. And usually, there's going to be info right on in the center part where the cap usually comes off, or the center part right there where the actual pin, you could see some engraving. So most of your information on a Cross is going to be in there, usually in the middle. It's rarely on the ends, though. Some of the vintage pins will have some, like, it'll say gold filled or whatever. But Cross is another bolo brand to look out for. I've came across Cross. That's a good one. I've came across Cross. Wow, that's like a tongue twister right there. Pins a lot, so they're out there, and usually, there's some of them that aren't worth that much, but there are some gold-filled ones. And with the company Cross, there are some solid gold pins out there, so just look out for those. They're pretty good money usually if you find them at garage sales and thrift stores. They're usually relatively cheap because people don't really know to look into these things. They just think they're regular pins, and for the most part, a lot of employees and people that work at thrift stores and people that are in garage sales, unless they, own the pin and bought it brand new, they don't realize that some of these pins are solid gold, and some of them are worth thousands of dollars, and they're out there. So you can definitely get lucky, especially watching these videos. As a matter of fact, we had a. I wish I could make a video on this, because the one of the viewers found a $500 item, and I can't talk about it. I wanted to do a video on it, but they wanted to stay anonymous, and so they did find a $500 item watching one of these videos. So congratulations! I thought that was really cool, and it was just one of those bolo videos. So stuff's out there. There's lots of treasures out there. But the bottom line is to definitely look out for these different types of pins and just kind of get familiar with them, especially if you've never dealt in the world of pins. People buy them even if they don't work. 50% of the time, these older pins aren't going to just work without new ink. Usually the ink dries out. So it's just one of those things to look out for sure. Next up, we have this vintage Canon